because Democrats today hate democracy. Democrats today are angry at the voters for re-electing Donald Trump and electing a Republican Senate and a Republican House, and they engaged in lawfare to stop democracy from operating. The Democrat Party, we are the party of illegal aliens. We are the party of murderers and rapists and gang members, and the Democrat Party exists here to fight to keep murderers and rapists and gang members in your communities. There's a reason the Democrat Party is at 26% approval nationwide. There have been more nationwide injunctions in the past 2 months against President Trump than in the entire 20th century. There have been more nationwide injunctions against President Trump in the last 2 months than both terms of George W. Bush, both terms of Barack Obama, and Joe Biden's term. Who is charged with making policy decisions? Elected representatives elected by the people or unelected federal judges? Do the federal courts have power to issue remedies for people who are not parties to a case?
That's a question I agree is not complicated. They do not have that power.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel today. We're diving into a fiery hearing where Senator Ted Cruz absolutely eviscerated the Democrats for their blatant hypocrisy. If you haven't seen the clip, let me break it down for you. And trust me, you'll want to stick around because this is a perfect example of why we need to fight harder for our Constitution, our freedoms, and the rule of law.
Thank you, Senator Whitehouse. Senator Cruz.
It's long been said that hypocrisy is the tribute that vice pays to virtue. I have to admit I'm enjoying listening to my Democrat colleagues suddenly discover the virtues of the rule of law after 4 years where they brazenly supported the most lawless Department of Justice and the most politically weaponized Department of Justice our nation has ever seen. We just heard the senator from Rhode Island talk about the imperative of protecting judges. And yet not a single Democrat senator cared about the violent protesters that showed up outside Supreme Court justices' homes, including, I might note, female justices like Justice Amy Coney Barrett, threatening their family, and Joe Biden's attorney general didn't do a damn thing and refused to enforce the law to protect those judges. Why? Because he agreed with the violent protesters and he wanted to intimidate and threaten those judges. Professor Bray, under our Constitution, who should decide elections, the voters or unelected judges?
The voters are the ones who should vote in the election according to the laws, and the laws sometimes have to be applied by the judges if there are cases.
And under our Constitution, who is charged with making policy decisions? Elected representatives elected by the people or unelected federal judges?
I think the question of policy, Senator, is a little broader than the particular case. So the laws should be enacted by Congress. That's where the fountain of law.
Policy decisions are the elected branches.
Right.
Law is the province of the court. Policy is the province of the elected branches. These are not complicated. Professor Bray, let me ask you this. Do the federal courts have power to issue remedies for people who are not parties to a case?
That's a question I agree is not complicated. They do not have that power.
Is the phrase nationwide injunction or universal injunction found anywhere in the Constitution?
It is not.
First chart. In the first 150 years of our republic, how many nationwide injunctions were issued?
My view is that there were not any until 1963.
0. Now fast forward. How many nationwide injunctions were issued in the entire 20th century?
It's a small number. I would think it would be a dozen, give or take. It's not large.
27, actually. Excluding Trump's first term, how many nationwide injunctions were issued in the last 20 years?
Far more than that.
32. From 2001 to 2024 against Biden, Obama, and Bush, 32. And how many nationwide injunctions have been issued in the last 2 months alone?
There have been quite a few.
37. Let that sink in. There have been more nationwide injunctions in the past 2 months against President Trump than in the entire 20th century. There have been more nationwide injunctions against President Trump in the last 2 months than both terms of George W. Bush, both terms of Barack Obama, and Joe Biden's term. We saw during the Biden presidency lawfare. indicting President Trump 4 times, using the machinery of justice to attack him, and that was an attack on democracy, because Democrats today hate democracy. Democrats today are angry at the voters for re-electing Donald Trump and electing a Republican Senate and a Republican House, and they engaged in lawfare to stop democracy from operating. Understand, this is the second phase of lawfare. Second chart. This is the second phase of lawfare. Now that their efforts to indict President Trump and stop the voters from re-electing him have failed, they're going and seeking out individual radical judges to try to shut down policies, and they are forum shopping like crazy. Give me any loon judge put on the bench by Obama or Biden who disagrees with a policy. We just saw a judge flagrantly ignore U.S. immigration law concerning TPS being revoked. U.S. law explicitly said there's no judicial review for that, but hey, they found a judge who says, you know what? We, the Democrat Party, we are the party of illegal aliens. We are the party of murderers and rapists and gang members, and the Democrat Party exists here to fight to keep murderers and rapists and gang members in your communities. There's a reason the Democrat Party is at 26% approval nationwide, because they put radical policies ahead of rule of law. Nationwide injunctions are an abuse of power. It is the judiciary acting as policy deciders, and it is incumbent on this committee and this body to rein in the abuse of power from these unelected radical judges who are trying to overturn the election because they disagree with what the voters decided.
Let's talk about this hearing. Senator Cruz didn't hold back, and frankly, we need more of this kind of leadership on Capitol Hill. The Democrats are out here pretending to care about the rule of law, but let's not forget the last 4 years when they openly supported the most lawless, politically weaponized Department of Justice in American history. Cruz brought the receipts, and I'm here to tell you, he's absolutely right. Did you catch that? Cruz pointed out how Democrats suddenly care about protecting judges, but where was this energy when violent protesters were literally outside the homes of Supreme Court justices? Justice Amy Coney Barrett and her family were threatened, and what did Biden's DOJ do? Absolutely nothing. Not one thing. Why? Because the left only cares about protests when it aligns with their agenda. If it's their radicals showing up at judges' homes to intimidate them, they turn a blind eye. But if it's parents showing up at school board meetings to speak out against woke indoctrination, oh, then they're domestic terrorists. Hypocrisy doesn't even begin to cover it, folks. Let's talk about the Constitution for a second. Senator Cruz asked some very simple, yet powerful, questions during this hearing. Who decides elections in this country? The voters, right? Who makes policy decisions? Elected representatives, right? Wrong, at least according to the Democrats. They've turned unelected judges into their own personal policymakers. And here's the kicker. These judges are issuing nationwide injunctions, not just for the parties involved in the case, but for everyone. That's not how our system is supposed to work. Cruz is 100% correct. There's nothing in the Constitution that gives federal judges the power to issue universal injunctions. This is judicial overreach at its worst. Now let's talk history. Did you know there were 0 nationwide injunctions in the first 150 years of our republic? 0. None. This wasn't even a thing until 1963. And yet, in the last 20 years, we've seen 32 of them. But here's the real bombshell. In the last 2 months alone, there have been 37 nationwide injunctions against President Trump. 37. More than in the entire 20th century. Ask yourself, is this justice, or is this an all-out political attack? It's obvious. The Democrats are using the courts to do what they couldn't achieve through elections. When they can't win at the ballot box, they turn to activist judges to block conservative policies and overturn the will of the people. That's not democracy, folks. That's tyranny. Cruz called this what it is, lawfare. The left has weaponized the legal system to go after President Trump, to intimidate conservative leaders, and to silence anyone who dares to challenge them. They've indicted Trump 4 times. not because he broke the law, but because they're terrified of him running again. They know they can't beat him in a fair election, so they're trying to stop him before he even gets to the ballot. And now that their indictments are failing, they're moving on to phase 2, finding radical judges to block conservative policies. Cruz called it forum shopping, and he's absolutely right. The Democrats are hunting for Obama and Biden-appointed judges who will rubber stamp their agenda. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about the rule of law. All they care about is power. Let me give you an example Cruz mentioned: a judge ignoring U.S. immigration law to block the revocation of temporary protected status, or TPS. The law explicitly states there's no judicial review for this, but that didn't stop a left-wing judge from stepping in. Why? Because the Democrats are the party of open borders. They're the party of lawlessness. They're the party of illegal immigration, gang violence, and chaos. Cruz said it perfectly. The Democrat Party has put radical policies ahead of the rule of law, and that's why their approval rating is in the gutter. The American people see through their lies. We've had enough of the open borders. We've had enough of the crime. And we've had enough of unelected judges acting like kings. So what's the solution? Cruz said it plain and simple. Congress needs to rein in these unelected judges. Nationwide injunctions are an abuse of power, and it's time for the people we elect to take back control. This is about preserving our democracy, folks. It's about ensuring that the will of the voters is respected. The Democrats know they're losing. That's why they're resorting to these desperate tactics. But as patriots, we can't let them win. We need to stand up, speak out, and hold them accountable. Call your representatives. Demand action. And most importantly, vote for leaders who will defend the Constitution and the rule of law. This fight isn't just about Trump. It's about every single one of us. It's about protecting our freedoms, our families, and our future. The left wants to silence us, but together we are louder. We are stronger, and we will never back down. Thank you for watching The Patriot's Voice. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends. Let's make our voices heard. God bless America, and God bless you all.